It was an ordinary sunny afternoon at the McDonald's near downtown. The warm sunlight streamed through the large glass windows, bouncing off the bright yellow and red walls, giving the restaurant a cheerful glow. Families filled the tables, chatting and laughing as they enjoyed their meals. The smell of French fries and burgers hung in the air, mixing with the faint scent of cleaning products that staff used to keep the place sparkling. Children ran back and forth between the play area and the tables, their laughter echoing through the restaurant, blending with the soft background music that played on the speakers. Among the crowd, a small family of 3 had just taken a booth by the window. A little boy, no more than 5 years old, sat between his mother and his backpack, which was slung over the back of the seat. His eyes sparkled with curiosity as he looked around the busy restaurant, fascinated by all the people, the sounds, and the toys scattered around. He had been excited about coming to McDonald's today, not just for the food, but because his mother promised he could play in the indoor play area after finishing his meal. For him, this was a perfect day. Across the restaurant, in a quieter corner, a man sat alone at a small table. He wore dark sunglasses and a baseball cap pulled low over his head. To the casual observer, he might have seemed like any other ordinary customer enjoying a meal. But there was something about the way he sat quietly, observing the room, that made him stand out. He was calm, polite, and careful not to draw attention. He took slow bites of his burger and sipped from his drink, occasionally glancing down at his phone. To him, this was just a simple outing, a chance to enjoy a quiet meal away from the flashing cameras and busy sets of his professional life. He wanted nothing more than a moment of peace, a moment of being invisible, just like any other person. The little boy, meanwhile, had noticed this man. At first, he thought the man looked a little funny, like someone he had seen on a screen before. His mother had told him stories about actors, but he had never met one in real life. His curiosity got the better of him. He tugged gently at his mother's sleeve and looked up at her with wide, innocent eyes. "Mommy, who is that man?" he asked softly, his voice filled with both excitement and a hint of nervousness. His mother followed his gaze and felt her heart skip a beat. She recognized the man instantly. It was Keanu Reeves, one of the most famous actors in the world. She felt a mixture of surprise and panic. How had he ended up here, so quietly and so close? She didn't want to embarrass him or her family, but she also knew that her son was already staring, curiosity written all over his little face. She tried to distract him, pointing to a menu or a toy in the play area, hoping he would lose interest. But the boy's attention was fixed. Something about the man seemed familiar and important, though he could not put it into words. After a moment of hesitation, the little boy gently stood up from his seat. He held his mother's hand tightly at first, then, seeing no objection, he slipped it away and took a few careful steps toward the man. The restaurant was crowded, but the boy's small presence seemed almost unnoticed among the chatter and movement. His little legs carried him confidently toward the corner table. He had no idea who he was approaching really was, only that there was something about this man that made him want to talk. Keanu Reeves noticed the little boy approaching. At first, he assumed it was just a curious child, perhaps someone who had seen him on television or in a movie. He smiled politely, the kind of gentle, soft smile he reserved for moments like this, and waited to see what the boy wanted. Children often had questions, and he didn't mind answering. He enjoyed small interactions that reminded him of simple, everyday life. The boy leaned close and whispered something into Keanu's ear. It was so quiet that no one else around could hear, not even his mother, who had come closer now, a mixture of pride and apprehension on her face. At that moment, the restaurant seemed to slow down, as if the world had noticed something unusual. Keanu's expression shifted almost immediately. His calm demeanor faded, replaced by a sudden pale look. His eyes widened slightly, and for a heartbeat, he froze. The boy, unaware of the effect his words had caused, smiled innocently and stepped back. To him, it was just a friendly whisper, a way to connect with someone who seemed important and a little mysterious. He had not intended to alarm anyone or cause any trouble. He simply wanted to say something that had come to his mind, something that felt important to share. The mother, sensing that something had changed, quickly moved toward her son, gently taking his hand again. She looked up at Keanu and tried to read his reaction. She saw the shock, the sudden tension in his face, and she realized that whatever her son had whispered had a deeper meaning than she could understand. Confused and slightly worried, she led her son back toward their booth, murmuring softly to calm him down. He looked back once, still smiling, not realizing the gravity of the situation. Keanu sat back in his chair, trying to regain his composure. He quickly scanned the restaurant, his eyes moving from table to table, checking for anything unusual. The normal sounds of laughter and chatter continued around him, but in his mind, he felt a rush of alertness, a need to act fast. His face, now pale, reflected the seriousness of what he had just heard. He realized that the whisper, though from a small child, carried information that required immediate attention. The staff at McDonald's continued their work, unaware of the tension in the corner. A young cashier called out an order, and a mother in another booth scolded her child gently for spilling a drink. Life in the restaurant went on, ordinary and noisy, but Keanu's world had shifted in an instant. The whisper had triggered something in him, a recognition that made him uneasy. He placed his hand on the phone in his pocket, thinking carefully about the next step. He knew he had to act, but he also needed to remain calm, so as not to alarm anyone else. The little boy, meanwhile, sat back down in his seat, happily munching on fries and chatting with his mother, completely unaware that he had just played a small part in an unusual and serious moment. Time seemed to stretch in the quiet corner where Keanu sat. He thought about the whisper, trying to understand its meaning. Even though it was just a few words, it felt urgent. He took a deep breath, reminding himself to stay calm, and began planning his next move. He needed help, but he also wanted to ensure that no one else panicked. The mother, finally realizing that something important had occurred, watched him closely. She felt a mix of worry and admiration for the way he handled the situation. Despite the shock that passed over his face, he remained composed, careful, and focused. She whispered to her son, "Be careful, okay?" He nodded, innocent and trusting, not fully understanding the tension around him. The sunlight continued to shine through the windows, children continued to play, and the scent of fries and burgers continued to fill the air. Everything seemed normal on the surface, but beneath that ordinary afternoon was an extraordinary moment that no one else could have predicted. A 5-year-old boy, full of innocence and curiosity, had unknowingly set off a chain of events that would leave a lasting impression on one of the most famous actors in the world. And in that small, busy McDonald's, life carried on, blending ordinary and extraordinary in a way that only moments like this could. After the little boy whispered into Keanu Reeves' ear, the atmosphere in that quiet corner of McDonald's changed instantly. While the restaurant remained filled with the usual sounds of laughter, chatter, and clattering trays, Keanu's world had shifted. He felt a strange mix of shock and urgency. It was as if those few words carried a weight far beyond their sound, a weight that only someone in his position could understand. His face, which had been calm and relaxed moments before, turned pale. His eyes widened, and he quickly scanned the surrounding area, taking note of every detail in the room: the positions of the tables, the people moving around, and the entrances and exits. The boy, sitting back in his seat, continued eating his fries and drinking his soda, completely oblivious to the effect of his words. His mother, however, noticed the sudden change in Keanu's expression. She felt her heart skip a beat. For a moment, she was unsure whether she should apologize, intervene, or simply observe. She could see the seriousness in his eyes and the tension in his shoulders. This was not the reaction of someone annoyed by a child's curiosity. It was something much deeper, something that suggested urgency and concern. Keanu slowly placed his hand over the phone in his pocket, weighing his next move. He knew that acting too quickly could alarm the people around him, but doing nothing was not an option. The whisper had hinted at something important, something that required immediate attention. His instincts, sharpened over years in a profession where danger and unpredictability were sometimes close companions, told him to act carefully but decisively. Around him, life in McDonald's continued as normal. A group of teenagers laughed loudly while sharing a table of burgers and fries. A mother tried to calm her toddler who was crying over a dropped toy. The employees moved efficiently behind the counter, calling out orders and arranging trays. To everyone else, nothing unusual had happened. The world outside the corner table was ordinary, bright, and cheerful. Yet in that corner, a quiet tension had taken hold, invisible to all but one man and one small boy. Keanu's mind raced. He replayed the whisper in his head again and again, trying to extract every piece of meaning from it. The child had said something innocent, simple in tone, yet it had struck a chord deep within him. Perhaps it was a coincidence, or perhaps the boy had unknowingly revealed information that only someone paying close attention could know. Whatever it was, it demanded caution. His instincts told him to take immediate action while maintaining calm, to avoid creating panic in the restaurant. Meanwhile, the boy's mother, sensing that something unusual had happened, leaned closer to her son. "Sweetheart," she said softly, "did you just say something to that man?" The boy nodded, smiling. "I just told him my secret," he replied in a small, matter-of-fact voice. He did not realize that his secret had an impact far beyond what he could imagine. His mother's heart raced as she glanced nervously at Keanu. She was torn between scolding him for approaching a stranger and recognizing that children sometimes act on curiosity and innocence without understanding consequences. Keanu, now fully alert, took a deep breath. He wanted to act quickly but subtly. He didn't want to alarm the customers, the staff, or the boy's mother. He also didn't want to draw attention to himself, as being recognized could make the situation more complicated. His calm, composed exterior masked the tension inside, as he mentally prepared for the next steps. He considered speaking to the staff quietly, keeping the situation discreet while ensuring safety. But he realized that he needed help that only trained professionals could provide. The boy, still unaware of the seriousness of the situation, returned to his meal. He munched happily on his fries and sipped his soda, occasionally glancing at the play area as other children ran around. He had no idea that his words had set off a chain reaction. His innocence created a stark contrast to the concern that now gripped the man in the corner. To the boy, it was just another exciting moment in an ordinary day at McDonald's, a chance to interact with someone who seemed interesting and a little mysterious. Keanu's gaze shifted to the people around him. He studied the staff behind the counter, the families eating their meals, and the individuals walking in and out of the restaurant. Everything seemed normal, yet he felt a heightened sense of awareness. The whisper had created a sense of urgency in him that he could not ignore. He realized that he needed to act carefully, without revealing the tension he felt. Every movement mattered, every glance and gesture could communicate more than he intended. The mother, observing the man's pale face and sudden alertness, began to feel a mixture of anxiety and admiration. She had seen actors on screens, portraying danger, suspense, and tension, but seeing it in real life was different. She realized that the seriousness in Keanu's expression was genuine. He was reacting not to a scene or a script, but to something real, something that required immediate attention. She felt a small pang of guilt, thinking that perhaps her son had unintentionally caused this reaction, but she quickly reminded herself that children often do not understand the consequences of their actions. Keanu reached for his phone slowly, carefully, making sure his movements were casual. He did not want to attract attention, yet he needed to communicate the situation. He considered calling someone he trusted, someone who could provide guidance, but then realized that this was a matter for authorities. He could not take any chances. The whisper, though brief and innocent in tone, had triggered a warning signal in him that he could not ignore. As he prepared to act, he continued to monitor the surroundings. He noticed small details: the way the sunlight reflected off the floor, the positions of the chairs and tables, and the movement of people entering and leaving the restaurant. Every detail could be important in understanding the situation and ensuring safety. His training in observation, combined with his intuition, made him hyper-aware. He was calm outwardly, but inside, his mind worked quickly, evaluating options and potential outcomes. The boy's mother, still watching, whispered to him gently, "Stay close to me, okay?" The boy nodded, trusting his mother completely. He could not understand the tension in the room, but he felt the seriousness in her tone. His trust in his mother's guidance kept him calm, even as the man in the corner appeared increasingly concerned. Keanu finally made his decision. He would contact authorities, but he needed to do it in a way that remained discreet. He slowly picked up his phone, pretending to check messages, while dialing a number he knew would connect him to emergency assistance. His voice, when he spoke to the operator, was low and controlled, conveying calm but urgency at the same time. He explained that there might be a situation requiring attention, carefully choosing words to avoid alarming anyone nearby. The staff continued their work, taking orders, preparing food, and serving customers. To them, everything seemed normal. They had no idea that a small whisper from a curious 5-year-old had created a ripple that reached one of the most famous actors in the world. The contrast between the ordinary hustle of the restaurant and the quiet tension in that corner table was striking. It was a moment where innocence and experience intersected in a way that no one could have predicted. Keanu spoke briefly into the phone, providing essential information without revealing sensitive details. His training in handling public situations helped him maintain composure. He continued to observe the room, making sure that no one else noticed the seriousness of the moment. His face, though still pale, reflected determination and careful calculation. He knew that the next few minutes could be crucial, even if the threat turned out to be minor. The boy, finished with his meal, began playing with a small toy he had brought along. He laughed and moved about, completely unaware of the tension he had caused. His innocence highlighted the difference between the carefree world of a child and the cautious world of an adult who had to respond to unexpected warnings. The mother kept a watchful eye on her son while also observing the man who had reacted so strongly. She felt a mix of concern, respect, and awe. In that quiet corner, time seemed to slow. The world around them continued at its normal pace, but the events unfolding at the table created a moment of heightened awareness. Keanu's mind remained focused, analyzing possibilities and planning the next steps. He understood that discretion was essential, that calm was necessary, and that swift action might be required. Yet he also appreciated the surreal nature of the moment: a small child, full of innocence, unknowingly delivering a message that triggered such a profound reaction. The sunlight continued to stream through the windows, casting shadows on the floor. The smell of fries and burgers lingered in the air. The sounds of laughter, conversation, and clattering trays remained. And yet, in that quiet corner, the world had shifted. An ordinary afternoon at McDonald's had become extraordinary in ways that only a few would ever fully understand. Keanu's eyes softened slightly as he glanced at the boy. He could see the innocence, the pure curiosity, and the lack of awareness of the impact of those few whispered words. It reminded him that even in ordinary places, extraordinary moments could occur. He felt a mixture of relief and seriousness. Relief that the child was unharmed, and seriousness at the responsibility that now rested on his shoulders. As he prepared to take the next step, he remained composed, calm, and careful. He knew that his reaction, though invisible to most of the restaurant, would be remembered by him forever. The small whisper had created a moment where worlds collided: fame and anonymity, experience and innocence, ordinary life and unexpected urgency. And in that collision, life had shown its unpredictability, its surprises, and the quiet power of a child's curiosity. Keanu Reeves sat quietly in the corner, his face still pale from the whisper of the little boy. The words had been brief, innocent in tone, yet they carried a weight that he could not ignore. His mind raced, thinking about the possibilities, trying to understand the significance. He knew that ignoring it was not an option. He also knew that reacting too quickly or loudly could alarm the people around him, including the staff, families, and especially the child who had unknowingly caused the reaction. He needed to act carefully, with caution and precision. He slowly reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone, trying to make it look casual, as though he was simply checking a message or taking a photo. In reality, he was dialing 911. His fingers were steady, but his heart was beating faster than usual. He understood the importance of discretion. If anyone noticed that he was nervous or in a rush, it could create panic, and he needed to avoid that. For a moment, he paused, gathering his thoughts, making sure he could explain the situation in a clear, calm manner without revealing too much. Meanwhile, the little boy continued to eat his meal, completely unaware of the tension that had taken over the corner of the restaurant. His mother watched carefully, sensing that something serious had happened but unsure exactly what. She glanced at Keanu, noticing the sudden shift in his demeanor. He had gone from calm and relaxed to alert and concerned in a matter of seconds. She could not understand why, but she trusted that he was handling the situation responsibly. Keanu put the phone to his ear and spoke quietly to the operator. His voice was calm, professional, but carried a tone of urgency that could not be ignored. He explained that he had just received a warning that might indicate a potential problem. He did not give unnecessary details, knowing that some information might be sensitive or confusing to the people around him. He carefully described the situation, providing just enough context for the authorities to understand that something needed immediate attention. As he spoke, he continued to scan the restaurant. He noticed small details, the positions of the tables, the movements of the staff, and the entrances and exits. He was aware of the families and children around him, knowing that any sudden alarm could create chaos. His training in observing and assessing situations, developed over years of navigating public life and unexpected encounters, kicked in. Every detail mattered. Every gesture, every glance, could reveal something important. The boy's mother leaned closer, whispering to him softly. "Stay close, sweetie," she said. The boy nodded obediently, trusting his mother completely. He had no idea that his whisper had triggered a chain of events. To him, it was just a small moment of curiosity, a simple interaction with a man who seemed interesting and kind. He could not understand the tension in the air, but he felt the seriousness in his mother's tone and remained quiet, obedient, and curious at the same time. Keanu continued to speak with the 911 operator, carefully explaining the situation. He described the brief interaction, keeping his words measured and precise. He emphasized the need for caution, requesting that authorities come quickly but discreetly. He wanted trained professionals to assess the situation, while he remained in control of the immediate environment around him. His voice remained calm, but his mind was sharp, analyzing every possibility and preparing for whatever might happen next. Around him, the McDonald's continued its normal rhythm. The smell of French fries, burgers, and soda filled the air. Children laughed and played, their footsteps echoing through the restaurant. Staff moved efficiently behind the counter, preparing meals and calling out orders. To everyone else, nothing unusual had happened. The ordinary hum of daily life continued, completely unaware of the extraordinary tension in the corner. Keanu's gaze occasionally returned to the little boy. He could see the innocence, the trust, and the complete lack of awareness of the seriousness of his actions. The contrast was striking. A child, with no understanding of danger or consequence, had unknowingly delivered a message that triggered a reaction in one of the most famous actors in the world. It was a reminder that the world is unpredictable, that even small, innocent actions can have significant consequences. The mother watched carefully, feeling a mixture of concern, awe, and curiosity. She could see that Keanu was handling the situation with remarkable composure. He remained seated, calm and quiet, speaking only when necessary, while keeping a watchful eye on the surroundings. She realized that he was not panicking, even though the situation was serious. His control and calmness reassured her, though she still felt a little nervous for her son. As Keanu continued his conversation with the operator, he instructed them to send help quickly. He explained that there was a situation that required attention, without alarming anyone nearby. He remained vigilant, observing the movements of people around him. His experience in public life taught him that even ordinary places could present unexpected challenges, and he was prepared to respond with caution and care. The little boy, finishing his fries, began to play quietly with his toy. He was happy, curious, and completely unaware of the tension in the corner. To him, life continued as usual. He did not understand that his whisper had set in motion a serious response, one that could involve trained professionals and emergency services. His innocence created a stark contrast to the seriousness of the man in the corner, highlighting the unpredictable nature of human interaction. Keanu kept his eyes moving, scanning the room. He noticed details that might have seemed insignificant to others: the direction a child was running, the position of a chair, the angle of sunlight through the windows. Every detail mattered. He understood that safety often depended on observation and anticipation. His mind worked quickly, processing information, evaluating risk, and preparing for the arrival of authorities. The mother whispered to her son again, keeping him close. She explained gently that sometimes, even small actions could have big consequences. He nodded, listening carefully, though he did not fully understand. His trust in his mother kept him calm, while Keanu handled the serious matter with precision and care. The ordinary and extraordinary existed side by side in the same space, creating a moment that would remain unforgettable for everyone involved. After a few moments, Keanu hung up the phone, having given all the necessary information. He felt a small sense of relief, knowing that trained professionals were on their way. Yet he remained vigilant. The whisper had triggered a serious response, and he could not let his guard down. He continued to observe, ready to react if necessary, while maintaining an outward calm that masked the tension inside him. The restaurant continued as normal, yet the quiet corner where Keanu sat was different now. There was a sense of heightened awareness, a subtle tension that only he could feel. Every movement, every glance, mattered. He understood that discretion was essential. The staff and other customers were unaware of the situation, and he wanted to keep it that way to avoid unnecessary alarm. The little boy's curiosity remained intact. He looked at the play area, then back at his fries, and finally at the quiet man in the corner. He felt a small connection, a sense of intrigue, though he did not understand why. To him, it was just another ordinary moment at McDonald's, filled with the excitement of new experiences and the joy of exploration. Keanu observed the boy, appreciating his innocence. He was reminded that the world often held unexpected moments, where the smallest actions could have significant effects. A child's whisper, so simple and unassuming, had created a situation that required attention, caution, and careful decision-making. He felt a deep sense of responsibility to handle it properly, without causing panic or fear. Time seemed to stretch in the quiet corner. Keanu remained seated, alert, and focused. His mind was sharp, analyzing possibilities and preparing for the next steps. He understood that safety and discretion were paramount. He continued to scan the room, noting every detail and every movement, while keeping his composure intact. The little boy finished his meal and leaned back in his seat, content and happy. He did not know the impact of his words, but he had unknowingly played a role in an extraordinary moment. His innocence, curiosity, and trust in his mother created a situation where ordinary life and extraordinary awareness intersected. Keanu remained calm but ready. He understood the unpredictability of life and the importance of responding appropriately to unexpected situations. The whisper had reminded him that vigilance, observation, and careful action were essential, even in ordinary places like a McDonald's restaurant. He knew that the next few minutes could be critical, and he remained prepared, composed, and focused. As he continued to wait, he felt a mixture of relief and seriousness. Relief that the situation was under control, and seriousness at the responsibility that had fallen on him. The world around him remained ordinary, filled with laughter, conversation, and the smell of food, but in that quiet corner, an extraordinary moment was unfolding. The sun continued to shine through the windows, highlighting the contrast between ordinary life and the tension in the corner. Children played, staff moved efficiently, and families enjoyed their meals. Yet in that space, Keanu Reeves remained vigilant, aware, and prepared, a reminder that even the most ordinary moments can hold unexpected significance. Within minutes of Keanu Reeves' call to 911, the quiet corner of the McDonald's was filled with a sense of heightened anticipation. Though the restaurant continued its usual rhythm, children laughing, parents chatting, and employees calling out orders, the tension in that corner was unmistakable. Keanu remained seated, his eyes scanning every person, every movement, every detail. His face was still pale, a reflection of the seriousness he felt. He knew trained professionals were on their way, but until they arrived, he needed to stay alert, cautious, and composed. The little boy, unaware of the significance of his actions, continued to eat his fries quietly. He occasionally glanced toward the corner where the man had been sitting, his curiosity evident in his sparkling eyes. His mother kept a close watch, gently holding his hand and whispering reassurances. She felt a strange mix of fear, awe, and admiration. She had never seen someone react so quickly and effectively in a situation that had started with nothing more than an innocent whisper. Soon, the faint sound of sirens grew louder in the distance. The other patrons paid little attention, assuming it was a regular emergency in the area. But for Keanu, the sound was a signal that help was near. His mind remained alert, calculating every detail of the room, the layout of the tables, the location of the exits, and the movement of every person inside. He remained calm, but his inner vigilance was sharp and unwavering. He knew that the professionals arriving would need precise information and quick cooperation, and he wanted to ensure that he could provide it. As the first officers arrived, they moved quickly and efficiently, scanning the room and asking questions. Their uniforms brought a sense of authority and reassurance. Keanu stood slightly to meet them, speaking in quiet, controlled tones. He explained the situation carefully, detailing the whisper and the reaction it had triggered, without causing panic among the patrons. The officers listened attentively, nodding as they took in the information. Their experience and training allowed them to remain composed, even as they recognized that the situation was unusual. The little boy's mother observed the scene with a mixture of nervousness and relief. She could see that the officers were professional and capable, and she trusted that they would manage the situation with care. She whispered to her son, "Stay close to me, sweetie. Everything will be fine." The boy nodded obediently, feeling the seriousness in his mother's voice even if he did not fully understand the circumstances. Keanu guided the officers to the table and recounted the events in precise detail. He explained how the boy had approached him, the whisper, and his own immediate reaction. He emphasized the need for discretion and careful assessment. The officers moved with quiet efficiency, asking Keanu to clarify details about the layout, the people around, and the sequence of events. Keanu provided information calmly, demonstrating both his awareness of the situation and his desire to maintain safety without causing alarm. The staff continued their work, somewhat puzzled by the presence of uniformed officers but reassured by their calm and professional demeanor. Customers continued eating, though some began to notice the unusual activity. Whispers and glances traveled across the restaurant, as people tried to understand the reason for the sudden attention. Still, no one knew the full story, and the officers carefully managed the situation to prevent panic. Keanu remained composed, yet he continued to observe every detail. He noticed how the officers positioned themselves strategically, assessing the room for potential risks. He observed their communication, their quiet signals, and their careful coordination. The experience reinforced his own awareness and appreciation for preparedness. He understood that even in ordinary places, unexpected situations could arise, and careful observation and calm action were crucial. The little boy continued playing quietly, his innocence starkly contrasting with the serious atmosphere around him. He did not understand that his words had created this chain of events. To him, the restaurant was still a place of fun and curiosity. He glanced up occasionally at the officers, intrigued by the uniforms and their movements, but remained calm under his mother's watchful eye. The mother felt a mixture of gratitude and awe. She admired Keanu's composure, his quick thinking, and his calm coordination with the authorities. She also felt amazed at the ability of the officers to manage the situation so effectively, keeping the restaurant calm while assessing a potential threat. The ordinary afternoon had transformed into a moment of high alert, yet everyone involved remained composed, focused, and responsible. The officers completed a careful sweep of the restaurant, checking the surroundings, observing the customers, and ensuring that there were no immediate dangers. Keanu remained nearby, ready to answer questions, provide clarification, or assist in any way necessary. The professionalism of the authorities, combined with Keanu's awareness, created a coordinated effort that maintained safety while minimizing disruption. Meanwhile, the little boy continued to observe quietly. He played with a small toy he had brought along, occasionally looking up at Keanu with curiosity. He did not understand the significance of his whisper, the call to authorities, or the presence of uniformed officers. Yet, in his innocence, he had become part of an extraordinary moment that highlighted the intersection of curiosity, awareness, and responsibility. Keanu spoke quietly to one of the officers, summarizing the situation once again and providing any additional details he remembered. His calm and cooperative approach helped the authorities form a clear understanding of the events. They appreciated his precision and composure, recognizing that he had acted responsibly while protecting everyone around him. As the situation unfolded, other customers began to relax, reassured by the calm professionalism of the officers and Keanu's composed demeanor. Some were curious, whispering among themselves about the unusual attention, but no one panicked. The officers managed the scene with care, maintaining order while gathering all necessary information. The mother whispered again to her son, explaining gently that sometimes even small actions can have unexpected consequences. He nodded, listening attentively, still curious but trusting his mother completely. The innocence of the child, combined with the vigilance of the adult, created a unique contrast, a reminder of how life can shift in an instant, turning ordinary moments into extraordinary experiences. Keanu continued to assist the officers, pointing out details such as the locations of tables, the flow of traffic in the restaurant, and the positions of staff and customers. His calm, careful guidance helped the authorities assess the situation efficiently. Every observation, every piece of information, contributed to creating a safe and controlled environment. The officers conducted their investigation discreetly, speaking to staff and customers as necessary, while ensuring that the little boy remained safe and calm. Keanu remained by their side, providing context, answering questions, and observing the room. His experience in navigating public situations, combined with his attention to detail, ensured that the situation remained under control. Time passed slowly in the quiet corner, yet it was filled with purposeful activity. The officers completed their checks, Keanu provided all necessary information, and the little boy remained happily engaged with his toy. The restaurant gradually returned to its normal rhythm, though the memory of the unusual moment lingered. Patrons continued eating, laughing, and chatting, but the extraordinary event in the corner remained a quiet secret known only to those directly involved. Finally, after careful assessment, the officers confirmed that there was no immediate danger. Their training, combined with Keanu's awareness and precise information, ensured that the situation was handled efficiently and safely. Keanu exhaled quietly, feeling a small sense of relief, yet remaining vigilant until he was certain that everyone was secure. The little boy's mother hugged him gently, relieved that the situation had been managed without incident. She whispered words of comfort and reassurance, explaining that everything was okay now. The boy smiled, still unaware of the impact of his words, but happy to be back with his mother, safe and content. Keanu thanked the officers for their swift and professional response. He acknowledged their expertise and calmness, recognizing the importance of their work in ensuring public safety. His gratitude was quiet but genuine, reflecting both relief and respect. As the officers prepared to leave, Keanu remained composed, reflecting on the events. He understood that life could shift suddenly, that even the most ordinary moments could carry unexpected significance. A child's innocent whisper had set in motion a series of actions that required careful attention, vigilance, and coordination. He appreciated the extraordinary mix of curiosity, awareness, and responsibility that had created the moment. The little boy returned to playing, his innocence and curiosity undimmed. He had no idea that his words had caused a remarkable chain of events, nor did he understand the seriousness of the situation. Yet, in his simplicity and trust, he had contributed to an extraordinary moment, a reminder of the unpredictable nature of life. Keanu's thoughts lingered on the surreal experience. He recognized that ordinary places, like a McDonald's restaurant, could become stages for unexpected events. He reflected on the importance of vigilance, composure, and the careful management of sudden situations. The little boy, the mother, the officers, and even the staff had played their parts in a moment that blended ordinary life with extraordinary awareness. As sunlight continued to stream through the windows, casting warm light across the restaurant, life returned to its normal rhythm. Children played, families laughed, and the smell of food remained inviting. Yet, in that quiet corner, a remarkable moment had occurred, a moment that would remain with Keanu Reeves, the little boy, and his mother forever. The day, which began as an ordinary afternoon at McDonald's, had transformed into an extraordinary story of alertness, curiosity, and responsible action. Keanu's calmness, the officer's professionalism, and the boy's innocence had combined to create a safe and unforgettable experience. The restaurant had witnessed a rare intersection of the ordinary and the extraordinary, a reminder that life's most unusual moments often arrive without warning. After the officers left, the McDonald's gradually returned to its usual rhythm. The children laughed again, families continued their meals, and the staff moved about efficiently, taking orders and cleaning tables. To everyone else, it seemed like an ordinary afternoon, but for Keanu Reeves, the experience left a lasting impression. He remained seated for a few moments, taking a deep breath and reflecting on what had just occurred. His face, once pale with concern, had returned to a calm expression, though the memory of the whisper and its unexpected impact lingered in his mind. The little boy, still curious and energetic, played quietly with a small toy on the table. He occasionally glanced up at Keanu, who gave him a small, reassuring smile. The child's innocence, unburdened by the seriousness of the situation, created a striking contrast to the careful vigilance that had filled the restaurant only moments before. His mother held his hand, gently guiding him, grateful that the situation had been resolved without harm or panic. She whispered softly to her son, explaining that sometimes even small actions can have unexpected effects. The boy nodded, absorbing her words in the simple, honest way that only a child can. Keanu looked around the restaurant, observing the ordinary activity with new awareness. The sight of families enjoying their meals, children playing, and staff moving efficiently reminded him of the delicate balance between everyday life and unexpected moments. He realized how quickly a single, seemingly minor interaction could change the energy of a space and demand careful attention. What had begun as a simple, friendly interaction with a child had evolved into a situation requiring coordination, calmness, and rapid decision-making. As he prepared to leave, Keanu quietly thanked the staff for their cooperation and understanding. He appreciated the way they had continued their work without creating unnecessary panic. Their professionalism had contributed to maintaining calm in a space filled with families and children. The staff, while still curious about the unusual events in the corner, were reassured by the calm demeanor of both the authorities and Keanu himself. Their respect for his composure added another layer of relief to his mind. The little boy's mother gently gathered her son's belongings, preparing to leave. She whispered words of gratitude to Keanu, expressing her appreciation for the care and attention he had shown throughout the incident. She could see that he had remained composed, thoughtful, and responsible, guiding the authorities and ensuring that the situation was handled safely. Her respect for him grew as she realized how seriously he had taken the events, even while remaining kind and gentle toward her child. The boy, oblivious to the gravity of what had just occurred, skipped alongside his mother, excited to leave the restaurant and continue the rest of his day. He had learned nothing of the tension he had inadvertently caused, but his interaction had left a profound impact on everyone involved. The simplicity and purity of his actions reminded Keanu that life often operates in surprising ways, where innocence and curiosity can intersect with experience and responsibility to create unforgettable moments. Keanu paused for a moment before exiting. He reflected on the surreal experience: the child's whisper, his own sudden reaction, the rapid arrival of authorities, and the careful handling of the situation. He understood that life can shift in an instant, transforming ordinary moments into extraordinary experiences. Each detail of the incident, the timing, the words spoken, the people involved, was etched clearly in his memory. He appreciated the unpredictable nature of life, where small actions can carry significant consequences, whether understood immediately or recognized only in hindsight. As he stepped outside into the warm sunlight, he took a deep breath and allowed himself a moment of relief. The day had begun as any other, with the simple intention of enjoying a meal in a quiet, ordinary setting. Yet it had turned into an experience that reminded him of the importance of awareness, vigilance, and calm action. Even in familiar places, extraordinary moments can unfold without warning, and the ability to respond thoughtfully can make all the difference. Keanu reflected on the child, whose innocence and curiosity had created this unusual event. The boy's whisper, so simple and unassuming, had sparked a response that required careful observation, coordination, and decisive action. He realized that sometimes, the most unexpected sources can provide important insight or serve as reminders of vigilance. A child's perspective, though naive and untrained, can unintentionally reveal truths that adults might overlook. The mother and her son walked a few steps away, giving a final glance back at Keanu. She felt grateful, amazed, and quietly reflective. She had witnessed a rare moment where ordinary life intersected with unexpected awareness and responsibility. Her son, in his pure and curious way, had played a key role in the unfolding of events. She understood that this day, though ordinary in appearance, would be remembered by all involved for years to come. Keanu paused again, thinking about the broader lesson of the day. Life's moments, whether seemingly ordinary or unexpectedly extraordinary, often test our ability to remain calm, observe carefully, and act responsibly. The presence of the child had reminded him that even small, innocent gestures can have profound effects. His reaction had been immediate, driven by experience, intuition, and responsibility. Together, the interactions of the child, the mother, and himself had created a unique chain of events: a blend of innocence, curiosity, and vigilance that transformed an ordinary McDonald's visit into a story worth remembering. He smiled quietly to himself, appreciating the delicate balance between normal life and unexpected moments of urgency. In that balance, there was a lesson about perspective, awareness, and the unpredictable nature of human interactions. A child's whisper had reminded him that life is full of surprises, and that maintaining calm and composure can help navigate even the most unusual circumstances effectively. As he left the restaurant, Keanu reflected on the professionalism of the officers. Their quick response, careful assessment, and ability to manage the situation without causing panic had been impressive. He appreciated their work and the way they had coordinated discreetly with him to ensure the safety of everyone present. Their calmness, combined with his own awareness, had created an environment where even an unexpected event could be handled efficiently and safely. The little boy's laughter and chatter faded into the background as they left the restaurant, but the impression of the moment remained. Keanu continued walking slowly, replaying the events in his mind. He thought about the unpredictability of life, the importance of observation, and the way small, innocent actions can lead to meaningful consequences. The experience left him with a sense of humility, gratitude, and reflection, reminding him that even ordinary settings can become extraordinary under the right circumstances. By the time Keanu reached his vehicle, the sun had begun to lower slightly in the sky, casting warm golden hues across the street. He paused for a moment, appreciating the calmness that had returned after a day filled with unexpected tension. The memory of the child's whisper remained vivid, not as a source of fear, but as a reminder of the interconnectedness of human interactions, curiosity, and responsibility. He reflected on the mother, her calm and gentle guidance of her son throughout the incident. She had demonstrated patience, care, and trust, keeping her child safe and composed while interacting with unexpected circumstances. Her presence had been a stabilizing force, ensuring that the child remained unharmed and unaware of the broader tension. Keanu recognized the quiet strength in her actions, and it added to his sense of respect and admiration. The little boy, as he walked home with his mother, remained happy and energetic, chatting about toys, fries, and the simple joys of the day. He had no understanding of the seriousness of his whisper, yet he had unknowingly created a moment that would be remembered by one of the most famous actors in the world. His innocence and curiosity were at the heart of a story that blended ordinary life with extraordinary awareness, a story that highlighted the unpredictability and wonder of human interactions. Keanu started his car and drove slowly away, reflecting on the lessons of the day. Life is unpredictable, he thought. A single moment, a single word, can trigger events that require vigilance, composure, and quick thinking. The ability to remain calm, observe carefully, and act responsibly can turn potential chaos into safety and order. And sometimes, the smallest voices like that of a curious child can carry unexpected insight or create extraordinary circumstances. The city around him continued its ordinary rhythm, but Keanu's thoughts were filled with the memory of the restaurant, the whisper, and the rapid response that had ensured everyone's safety. The experience had reminded him of the importance of awareness, patience, and measured action. He smiled quietly, appreciating the extraordinary lesson hidden within an ordinary afternoon. As the evening sun bathed the streets in golden light, Keanu felt a sense of gratitude and reflection. The day had begun with a simple intention to enjoy a quiet meal but had evolved into a story of unexpected tension, vigilance, and human connection. The little boy's whisper had set in motion a chain of events that highlighted the unpredictable nature of life, the value of composure, and the quiet strength of ordinary people acting responsibly. Finally, as he parked his car and prepared to leave, Keanu felt a sense of closure. The moment had passed, but the lesson remained. Life can surprise us in unexpected ways. Even a 5-year-old's innocent whisper can create extraordinary ripples. And in those ripples, there is always an opportunity to demonstrate calm, awareness, and responsibility, qualities that transform ordinary moments into extraordinary memories. The little boy and his mother returned home, unaware of the story they had created, yet forever part of a memory that would stay with Keanu Reeves? For him, it was a day that reinforced the delicate balance between curiosity, innocence, and vigilance, a day that turned an ordinary McDonald's visit into an extraordinary experience of reflection, gratitude, and human connection.